What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's time to recap the Teen Moms special called Being Javi, okay? The episode kicks off with Javi revealing that he now lives in, the home that he and Kailyn used to share while they were married. The first one that they bought together, I believe, and that his sister moved in with him as well. And I guess she acts as some sort of live-in nanny in exchange for rent. And next up, we see him head over to his CrossFit thingy and then head out to lunch with his friend Alejandra, and they talk about how Kailyn said he'd never make it to the finals in CrossFit or whatever, and then Alejandra then switches the topic over to his relationships and dating and how his sort of boundaryless relationship with Kailyn affects a lot of his relationships and is kind of the cause for them falling apart. And Javi then asks this really weird question. I wasn't paying attention all that much, to be honest, but he asked this weird question about so if you were my girl and I just called up Kailyn and asked her something about her day, would you be upset? And she was like, duh. And so she warns him dude, you need to set some sort of boundaries in regards to your relationship and stop conflating co-parenting with kind of dating and flirting and stuff like that. And then your other relationships might stand a chance at working out. She actually calls him out for being too available, boundaryless. And she also says that he needs to stop randomly talking to Kailyn, calling her, texting her to ask about her whore activities instead of just focusing on the fact that he's got a child to raise with her. Next up, he and his friends go out and he revels in how many people recognize him from the show. And I couldn't help but chuckle to myself because, as funny as it is, I do love seeing people's reaction to, meeting them caught on film. And then the next morning, I guess they go out to get a hangover brunch or something like that with some family. It's his friend, his sister, and his cousin all out together to eat. And then again, they talk about his problems with the relationships and how it's so hard to date when you're so famous. And I think that that's not really his problem. You know what I mean? I didn't appreciate how he acted oh, anyone who knows me from the show is disingenuous and not genuinely here for me. They're only, trying to get on TV and get some money or this, that, or the other. And it's kind of well, a lot of people said that about you when you first came around. So slow your roll. And then second of all, I think his main problem is his cousin says, he's just addicted to love. And to the point where he doesn't even pay attention to the person that he's with because he's just living in his own little fantasy world where everybody is good, everybody loves him unconditionally, so long as you give, the person that you're giving to is going to appreciate and reciprocate. And that is unfortunately just not the way that the world works. And it's kind of unfair and simple to just blame everything on you being quote unquote famous. And it happened on Teen Mom 2 as well, his sister reiterated her thoughts, which were that Javi was head over heels in love with Kailyn and her son Lincoln, and that and then the cousin actually chimed in and agreed with the sister, and they both said that they never felt like Kailyn ever genuinely loved him in return. And then they talk about how he and Kailyn once had an empire together, and I was like, what empire are these delusional ass people talking about? Because I don't recall them ever really doing much of anything outside of being on the show. I mean, Kailyn's got her little Scentsy thing and her little Etsy stuff, but what empire? It's soccer time for the boys and Kailyn comes by and is as snappy as always. I literally have no clue how anybody tolerates this nasty woman. In my opinion, there is not a single redeeming quality to her except probably the fame and the money if you're into that sort of thing that comes with her. But even then, is it really worth tying yourself to that for the rest of your life? I personally don't think so. Javi's sister tells her that the baby Lux looks cranky or whatever, and she's like, oh, he looks just like his dad. His dad has a very miserable face, and it was kind of pot, meet, kettle, because you have one of the sourest resting bitch faces I have ever seen in my life. And the funny thing about Kailyn is that not only does she have a resting bitch sourpuss face, she also is a resting bitch / sourpuss. Literally after the game, they're back to her truck and Javi is helping her load things or whatever, and she asked him about Lincoln's backpack and he said he didn't really know, and he asked his sister about it and she's like, lose your attitude. What attitude? And then Javi asked where was it, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, why is your sister doing that for you? Oh, you're definitely not talking to me because when we were married, I never held anything for you, blah, 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 blah. And it was just so weird how she kept constantly digging and acting really bitchy. And even Javi's sister rolled her eyes at how annoying and weird Petty Betty is. Javi is really serving variety here because next up he is over at the barber shop and he brings up his dating life yet again and claims nothing, that he hasn't been involved in anything too serious, which which is quite hilarious considering the fact that we know from reading like the blogs and stuff like that, that Javi has been in quite a few relationships since his divorce, and that he always claimed that each one of them was like serious or like was some kind of soulmate in some kind of weird way. Remember, like he would always like get into a relationship and like literally the same day, as soon as the chick says yes, he's like, you said yes? All right. He speed dials Radar online with the tea about his new relationship. So it's really weird that he would claim that none of them were serious, yet here he was just a couple of months ago giving like the exclusive gossip on his relationships. And then it kind of brings us back to his whole thing about like why it's hard to date because everyone wants attention. It's kind of like, well, are the women the one who want the attention, or is it you? Considering the fact that we know about all of your relationships because you would consistently go to the tabloids and I'm assuming make money off of them. So, you know, it's kind of a two-way street in terms of exploitation, if you ask me. And then again, he of course brings up how easy it is to pull women because he's on TV. And then his friends ask him whether or not Kail named her child finally. And then he's like, yeah. And then he tells them that the baby's name is Lux, and they're all like, Lux what? And then they find out it's Lux Russell and that Lux is his first name, and they have a laugh fest about it. Next up, we have another change of scenery because Javi is at the tattoo shop getting a cover up. And guys, I feel like his previous tattoo must have been really atrocious if he's going to be covering it up with like a freaking collage of some children's cartoon. And he just makes this really ill-timed comment, to say the least, while he's in a very unfortunate position, okay? Like a little bit awkward, but that's just me being shady old me. And so while he's getting this thing done, he reveals that Kail recently went through his phone while their kids were at a soccer game, and she changed her own name in his contacts to like a nasty name that one of his friends had called her mid-conversation. And it's just so funny how Kail, of course, as usual, does not adhere to her very own rules. You know, while they're married, a big point of contention within that marriage was that Javi wanted access to her phones and stuff like that to know about like her thoughting activities, and she refused and all that. She's like, oh, that's like so like this, that's that, you're so insecure. But here they are, broken up, divorced, whatever, and she's going through his phone. And then he mentions once again how hard it is to date as a super famous mega TV star. Like this could have been a drinking game, you guys. How many times can Javi humble brag about like how hard it is to go through all of the women he's managing to pull due to his like fame and status? Now back home, Javi says that he applied to be a cop as his backup plan in case like things didn't go, you know, as planned with the military, in case they wanted him to go to a different city because he's not willing to relocate out of Delaware. And he was unfortunately rejected because before he could even like move to the interviewing process or anything like that, because of the false PFA that Kail had filed. Remember, Kail last season of Teen Mom 2 claimed to be fearing for her life over Javi, so she got like this PFA only to drop it a little while later in exchange for being able to, if I'm remembering correctly, in exchange for being able to bring Lincoln on vacation with her. Like how disgusting that she played with both his military life and his potential police life as well. Like now he lost out on this job specifically because this like petty Betty, like evil woman falsely filed a PFA against him. Honestly, I'm having a little bit of a difficult time trying to figure out which is more pathetic. Kail's lying about something that's serious, or him still groveling over her despite all of this. Like this is just one little blip in the huge mess that is Kail, and yet here he still is, seemingly like in love with this woman with zero redeeming qualities. And speaking of the devil herself, Kail comes over and drops Lincoln off without knocking and tells Javi not to feed Lincoln this donut or whatever he was trying to offer him. And Javi tells her, first of all, listen, chick, it's my house, so I'm gonna feed him what I want to feed him. And he also tells her that she better start putting some respect on his name and knocking on the door before she enters the house. And then she, you know, snaps back. She's like, listen, you always walk straight through my house without knocking, and second of all, you always go through my pantry. And so this is one of those moments where I first watched it, I was like, oh, Kail, you bum bitch, why are you so rude? But then when you think about it, she's right about that. We've seen it on Teen Mom 2 that Javi, like, you know, storms on in there, looks through her cabinets, her fridge, makes like these comments, blah, blah, blah. So she's right. And then on top of that, I think she was being playful, but because she's got like this really sour, nasty, like unlikable disposition, it doesn't come across the same way it would that someone, you know, more bubbly, cheery, and likable would if they said the same thing. So I'm like, all right, girl, I see you here. And last but not least, it turns out that Javi and his friends didn't make the finals, just like Kail said they wouldn't. And they almost immediately start training for another competition, even though Javi originally said that he would not do something like that. Alejandra got through to him though. So that's about it for Being Javi. Honestly, I like Poppy a lot, and you guys know that, but this special was really like, it fell flat for me. I felt like he seemed really shallow and like overly self-involved. And he also seemed like, yet again, like Kail's kind of bitch a little bit. And I was disappointed, considering I was really hoping that this was something that would show us a different side of him, but we didn't really see that much. Like, he talks about, you know, how he has no boundaries with Kail. We already knew that. And then he just kept humble bragging about how he's got so many women throwing themselves at him over his fame. And I was like, I don't even know that that's true, first of all. And second of all, you do use these women yourself in order to run to the tabloids and make money off of like your relationships that only last a couple of weeks. So like, it's kind of like pot calling the kettle black on that one. And I don't know, I wasn't loving it that much, especially because I watched this and then I went and watched Being Gary right after, and I was like, damn, Gary's life is deep. And I'm excited to recap that next. You guys, what did you think about the Being Javi special? Please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more. Feel free to share it with your friends as well. And follow me across social media, where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.